Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 56. I'm Thomas Mooney, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by singer-songwriter Charley Crockett. Charley, about a month ago, released a new record called As Lonesome As A Shadow, and so that's what we talk about a lot on this episode. Obviously, one of the big points with Charley is this mix of genres, these various styles of music and putting them all together and whatnot. And we talk a lot about that, but one of the things that I think a lot of people wonder about with Charley Crockett is, the style and substance of his music and his character. And I have to say that I think that, he's one of the most authentic individuals I've ever met. You can tell that he's not, pulling any punches when he's talking about music, and we talk about it in the conversation here. You feel the earnestness in his songwriting, and when he's talking about music, you feel that passion for storytelling and trying to evoke emotion in ways that can only be done for Charley in writing songs and performing. Him and his band, they played at Blue Light a few Sundays back, and it was one of those things that they played forever. And I think that even if they didn't have to go back to wherever they were playing the next day, or if they had the time, they would have literally played every song they had in their catalog. And you could just tell they have a lot of fun, and it means something more than just going up for 90 minutes and playing, which they did more than 90 minutes. Like I said, they kept on adding songs to their encore, and I think they ended up playing 6 or 7 encore songs. So, and then of course, Charley sat there and shook everyone's hand and did all of that kind of stuff. And like I said, this has been one of my favorite conversations about music. I'm sure Charley will be on the podcast again sometime. So I don't want to just keep on rambling about this. So yeah, we'll go ahead and just get on into the conversation. Again, if you don't follow New Slang, go ahead and do so on all the social media platforms. It's _New Slang on Twitter and on Instagram, New Slang on Facebook. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so on iTunes. Leave a 5-star review. And yeah, here is the conversation with Charley Crockett.
This new record out now. It's just been out 2 weeks now.
Lonesome As A Shadow, yeah. It came out on April 20th.
Yeah. I remember when I talked to you on that Wide Open Country article, you had said that you guys had that in the can for a while there.
Yeah, we had.
Yeah,
we did it back in September of last year, and I cut it in 4 days.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, it's always a 6-month process getting it out. So. But I got tons of songs, so it's just a matter of organizing them into records,
Yeah. Is that always hard and difficult, that process, that wait after you've already finished recording and, just wanting to get those out already and move on to the next thing? Is that that process of it being kind of in that?
Yeah, I'm the type of guy that I got so much music that I'm writing, and also other people's songs that I want to record, that I could spend all my time just recording. But so I guess I can be pretty impatient. But the truth is, I'm so busy on the road that the time just flies by. I don't really have time to sit and think on it, and then the milestones just keep passing.
Yeah, you recorded that record in Memphis. To me, it feels like you can feel that weight of that city, that area, that style.
I think it's got the
can,
dampness on it. You can
Yeah.
feel the dampness in the room of the sound of the room that the band is coming out of.
Is that something that you can feel in the moment? Like whenever you guys are actually sitting there recording, getting all those songs worked up, is that something that you can feel like in the moment, or is it like after the fact when you go back and through and listen, you're like, oh yeah, we did capture the atmosphere of that place?
Oh, I guess it's a little bit of both. I mean, you're in Memphis, especially when it's at Sam Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place that you can't help but be really aware of when you're there. And then later when it came out, as I started listening to it, I put a lot of soul on this record. I mean, you could call me country, call me soul. I prefer to put the two together.
Right.
But I definitely was able to bring that soul more to the middle of the record on this one than maybe if I'd been doing it, say, maybe out here in West Texas.
Right.
I might do it a little different.
Yeah. I think like one of my favorite things I've ever heard is, and I heard it through Kevin Russell of Shiny Ribs. He was talking about how Doug Somm had said, like, you either got West Texas dust or East Texas rust. And like he told Kevin that he had both of them. I think like that's something, like you can probably hear in a lot of your stuff is that East Texas rust.
Oh,
and like if you came out here, you'd probably be able to hear that dry, like Joe Ely kind of, maybe Butch Hancock.
And I have people that come at me for both, for feeling that dusty West Texas vibe, and then other people that like they really like that, maybe that Cajun sound of Southeast Texas, and I got family from all over those regions. When I was playing in Amarillo, I had cousins coming out to the shows that I'd never met before,
right?
Who started hearing about me out there and realized we was related and coming out to the shows. So every corner of Texas, man, I got some blood somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
I guess we maybe all do. You've been here long enough.
Yeah, I think like whenever you're, like I'm not like a big, like gung-ho, I'm from Texas. But like I think everyone, if you're from Texas, you just have that inherent pride of being from Texas. And
yeah, absolutely. It's a unique land and really diverse, really, if you really think about it.
Right.
So Texans are really proud, but it's a really diverse swath of Texans that have pride.
Yeah, so, it is. It's there's like all these just little different factions of what you're proud about Texas.
Yeah.
When you're recording in a place like you said Sam Phillips's place, I've talked with like Paul Cawthon about when you recorded down in Muscle Shoals. Do you have that like, like you're a fan of music, so you obviously know the history of these places. Do you go in and like have to go and have like I guess like that moment of the oh shit, like we're recording here, all right, and then like get past that to get down to business? Because I mean, you said you recorded this in 4 days.
Yeah. Well, so for me, it was like the other way around. I didn't even put much thought into it because we was playing. I'm on the road 85% of the year, and I mean, we come in hot to Memphis right off a string of who knows how many gigs, and I had barely gotten any sleep, and just rode in there and just started cutting. And it really wasn't until 3-4 days in and we knew we had it, we had the whole thing cut basically, that I started I'm hanging around the building and and I start thinking about the fact that, Johnny Cash was in this building and Bobby Bland and all the amazing, Memphis artists that come in and out of an establishment like that. It did have an effect on me, especially as time goes on. It has more and more of an effect on me. I'm able to see it clearer, I guess. I feel very, very grateful in some small way to be able to have contributed to something in the same studio as those legends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like I would always. I think like there's an aspect of maybe like being intimidated by the spot if you think about it too much.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I can't imagine going into one of these places and being like, well, all these people, there's like so much history in these walls.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're just a small piece of what that building, you know what I mean? Like,
well, what happened to those cats too, like when you think about those guys like Elvis and Cash and Jerry Lee and all those boys, Sam Phillips was already a big figure. You know,
Right.
he had been, he was recording a lot of amazing black music. I think the white artists were selling more, and that was the main reason that he started recording white artists, was simply to stay open. But he had already achieved so much by getting all kinds of country, southern black sounds. So I think when those boys walked in there, they were already under that same pressure that maybe we would feel now.
Yeah.
You know, our generation walking in them same rooms. And the thing about that is, though, is it's that kind of pressure, it's that kind of expectations that make you rise. Mm-hmm. And you end up laying something down a tape that you look back and you say, man, did I do that?
Yeah.
How did I do that? You know, and it's the combination of the room, the reputation that precedes that room, the people, the cats you playing with, and the people you recording with, you know. And for me, Matt Rossbang is who I was recording with there. That boy is the Memphis sound. You know, he started out at, you know, working at Sun Records, the original room, when he was like 16. And he has all that knowledge in him, as young as he is. I think he's just a couple years younger than me. He's carrying all that knowledge. You know, if you hear those early Sun recordings, man, he knows how they were recorded exactly. He knows where they were standing in them rooms. He poured over that stuff, you know. So I was really excited to also be working with him, and I have the type of sound that, you know, I was hoping to meet somebody like him that was into that kind of early recording that I think is a way that I can shine. And Sam Phillips' son, Jerry Phillips, runs it today, you know. So, you know, I mean, you in there. At one point, Jerry was hanging out in the control booth when we was cutting the song "The Sky'd Become Teardrops," and then he was also in there for "How Long Will I Last." And I'm seeing this dude with the headphones on in the control room, looking at me while I'm cutting it, and it's going through my mind that this is the son, the bloodline of one of the kind of innovators of rock and roll, you know, in Sam Phillips, and that was a surreal moment for me,
right?
Realizing that and knowing that I was getting the take that I wanted and proud of it, and knowing that man was in the control booth listening to it. That was one of the proudest moments of my life, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be surreal. You know, it has to feel special. You have to. I feel like it's in those moments of that's what you're going to look back on 10 years, 20 years from now. Something you'll always remember.
Man, it's all about the records that we cut. Mm-hmm. There's a scene out there, and there's politics and the up and downs and all that stuff. But when we're old, if we get there, all that we're going to have to measure ourselves by is going to be these tapes, you know, these recordings. And,
right.
You know, that's why I try to really stay focused on the music and, you know, and really just try not to get caught up, you know, out there, you know. And I always say that, you know, once you get caught up in the scene, it ain't about the music anymore, you
right.
know. And that's not to say that you shouldn't build community, because there's an amazing community of artists out here to be proud of being around and stuff. Like, yeah, you were saying you're talking to Paul Cawthon, and, you know, there's a few cats like that out there that, you know, it gives me comfort to know that they're working hard and not going to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, like, obviously people have described your sound as, like, you know, everything from, like, old school honky-tonk and country to, like, that blues sound, the you know, that soul, that R&B, all, like, there's all this stuff that, you know, you're the like the just the catch-all of, like, all these different sounds, right? But, like, in this Rolling Stone article, that's the piece I was looking up, because I wanted to get, like, this specific quote. You were talking about how, like, still through all that, like, you said that you there's only one thing that I'm just going to read the quote. That's my whole message. It's the only thing I sing about in any of my fucking songs. That's all anybody's really doing. You have one song. There's just different ways to sing it. I found, like, that quote incredibly interesting on many different levels. Like, first off, like, what is can you expand a little bit on that? Like, what is, like, that one song idea, just in different?
Well, I guess what I mean by that is you have your story as your life, and that's, like, the one thing that you know about that you can really, or that I can speak on. A lot of my favorite artists, like Lightning Hopkins, he has as soon as the reason that you when you hear an artist that you are aware of and and you hear their voice and they're immediately identifiable to you, very singular, is because of a certain personality that only that person has, and that's why they become so recognizable. And in all the artists that I love so much, I've always noticed that there's a certain almost like a color or a style of paint or color that an artist would use. And like Lightning Hopkins, he recorded like 800 songs. They're all very similar. Now I don't mean that they're the same.
Right.
I mean that his themes, his solo, his guitar, his tone and the way he plays, his delivery, his storytelling method, his habits of hollering out, "Have mercy," in the middle of a solo and stuff like that. It becomes you, and and it's kind of like, imagine if think about life, each day you got a 24-hour day, and half the day is in the light and half the day is in the dark. Well, imagine if you moved all those days to one side and all the nights to the other side. Life would just be one long day.
Yeah.
One cycle. And when it's all said and done, I imagine that that's what it feels like. That maybe you just live this one long, amazing day. So it's like I have my path that I'm on, and everything that I sing is a way of describing that path. It's how I relate my struggle to the world. And in that way, it's one story. It's just like each song is like a line in my story.
Yeah. See, I like that. I think that's something that I love when people think about music more than just turn it on the radio and really think about how important it is to the culture, to themselves, to the individual, to society as a whole. I think that's what makes good art is when you think past that level of that surface and really start digging deep, you're able to find that magic. And once you're able to pass that magic, that's what's
in the and all the magic is not, it's really not what you do, it's how you do it. So it's like, as a musician trying to come up and stuff, you're always going to come across other artists that are doing this amazing thing. And if you try to compare yourself directly to them, especially somebody really talented, that can be a really vexing thing. That can really wear you down, because only when you're really in your true mode and you found your real way of expressing yourself to the fullest, ain't nobody gonna be able to do it like Hank Williams, except Hank Williams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He sounds like Hank Williams. That's what B.B. King said about Jimi Hendrix. Asking to describe Jimi Hendrix's sound, he's like, all I can tell you is that he played the blues like Jimi Hendrix, and he figured out, to play the blues as Jimi Hendrix, not as, this kid trying to be B.B. King or this kid trying to be Buddy Guy or whatever, and it's good to have your heroes and learn from them. I've been heavily influenced by many players and learn their material, but if I sit there and try to sing just like them, I'm going to fail. But if I let it come out as me in the truest form, well, that if you're really doing it in a pure, true way, it should stand out, because no two people are made alike.
Right. Yeah. Now, obviously, there's a lot of country and blues and soul on this last record.
You damn right.
But I still think there's some of those, some of the feel of those songs are very hip hop. It's very R&B hip hop. I think especially in "Oh So Shaky."
Yeah.
That feels like it could be a hip hop back. You know what I mean?
When I hear it, I hear early '90s West Coast hip hop, I don't know, De La Soul or Souls of Mischief. That's what it reminds me of. Well, I mean, man, I'm a child of the millennial generation, and
right.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I grew up on a steady diet of, being taught how to play the fiddle right out the womb, and learning traditional country songs as my upbringing. I didn't have it that way. I had a really rough. had a really rough childhood, and spent a lot of time by myself, and I was really heavily influenced by the hip hop that I grew up around, because it was everywhere. And time again, good hip hop would expose me to the great soul music before it that a lot of it is based off of, and blues and all that. I was listening to an Ice Cube song the other day because I was listening to this B.B. King tune that I really like called Chains and Things. It's one of his big songs.
Mm-hmm.
So this great minor blues song. It's so powerful. It's all about the struggle. And then I looked the song up and realized by accident, just searching out there, that there was an Ice Cube sample and maybe 4 or 5 other hip-hop songs that all charted that had used B.B. King's blues recording as a sample. And that to me is like the way that culturally we move forward and how we're able to see back to ourselves. And hip-hop was my way into that. And there's a certain rhythm of our times and stuff that is just kind of imprinted in it, and I would say that, it's soul music, and it's hip hop is blues to me. It's jazz, it's soul, it's gospel, it's all those things, and even pop music on the country radio. You hear so much, for better or for worse. Maybe sometimes they take some of the worst parts of, some of these types of music and kind of really gets watered down and stuff. But to me, even when I'm listening to terrible radio, like pop commercial radio, I still can hear gospel underneath it, even if it's twisted.
Yeah.
And it all comes from spiritual music.
Right.
It was all secular at one time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's all secular now. I would say it was all prayer and worship music.
Right.
Before.
I think like what's happening in music is I'd compare it to like a rope where like one side of the rope is being frayed out, where like you have all these different mini genres, right? You got like the pop, the R&B, you got rock, folk, gospel, jazz, whatever, right? And then all of those are like being frayed out into, punk and like all like these little micro mini genres, while on the other end is like all the top 40 stuff getting tighter together and becoming more homogenized, and it's just becoming like one ambiguous sound.
I think it happens in cycles. I think the business itself, like the more traditional or like the more conventional way the music business works, like that's the only thing they really know how to do.
Right.
Is take it that direction, is in a homogenized direction, because so much of that doesn't have anything to do with the music culturally. It has to do with the dollar, which I'm not sitting here putting judgment on that, but I do think that's what it is. I'll give you an example. Like I'm in the bus or the RV or the van or whatever all the time, and sometimes I sit through and like last week I was sitting there and I was going through all the country charting singles from like 68 to 72 and just flipping through them and looking them up and then looking up the songs on YouTube. You would be amazed, even in that era, in this golden era, they would say, of music, like in the 68 to 72, how many of the songs at the very top of the charts just were not any good. Don't get me wrong, there was like Loretta Lynn and Merle Haggard and all these people were always still charting these great hits, but there's this vast majority of music that was at the very top of the charts that has been totally forgotten.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the most amazing songs from those eras wouldn't be anywhere near the top of the charts. They'd be somewhere, just barely in the under 100 or number 50 or something, and it was like a regional hit at the time. And then they have come to look at it now, and some have been the most heralded songs or recordings anybody has ever heard. And that's not new. That I in reading about the blues, like in the 30s, the 20s and 30s, especially the 30s, even in the 40s, blues, like Delta blues recordings on 45s could chart as hits, because that was popular music at one point. Was literally just blues songs, R&B songs, like old rhythm and blues songs. Man, you'd be amazed how many artists were at the top of those charts with these really very, almost just very cheesy versions of blues. Whereas like the Robert Johnsons and the Lightning Hopkins, the young Lightning Hopkins and stuff, they would cut these regional songs that would maybe not get more than 3,000 to 5,000 copies distributed. They might chart regionally in like an obscure genre category or something. But now it's only Lightning and and Robert Johnson and these kind of people that we look back at and celebrate so much.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is there really is always to me there's a difference between the way the business behaves and maybe how it charts commercially, because that has a lot to do with muscle and politics and just maybe the way the business flows, versus over time as we get further away from those eras, the diamonds in the rough begin to emerge.
Yeah.
And I try to think about it more that way. I'm trying to make the best music I can, and if I can get up in some charts, I'll take it. But, I think if you're just thinking like those people on the business side about charting only,
yeah,
there's a huge portion of it that's being left out entirely.
Right. No, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Like, you always look back and, the cream is going to rise, right? Like, you're going to, forget about all the people that was just doing it as a act, or, just not putting 100% into, I don't know, the good songs, right?
Yeah, it's just over time, the soul of anything is going to, it gets weathered and
right.
It just, all that gets exposed is what's at the center. If there's nothing there, then ain't nobody going to be talking about it.
Yeah. Now, obviously you're out on the road all the damn time. How do you fit in songwriting? How do you write? Have you been able to at least section off time, even on the road, to start songs and start getting what is that? I don't know. A lot of people are not able to really do that. They have to find that space. How have you been able to work out?
Oh man, it's a hurry up and wait game that we play.
Mm-hmm.
So I spend a ton of time thumbing around on guitar or banjo, or we got a lot of instruments that we just keep around. And the good thing is the guys that I play with, most of them are like-minded, where they like to play a lot. And I learn songs constantly. This week I taught myself, Coal Miner's Daughter and The Race Is On, and just all kinds of songs that are popping in my head that maybe I'm flipping through all kind of YouTube stuff, and I'll come across a song, Good Time Charlie's Got the Blues,
Man,
the
that's a great
1972
song.
version with Danny O'Keefe's hit.
Yeah.
My buddy Dan up in Nashville told me about him, and I started listening to the song, and I think at Soundcheck 2 or 3 days ago, we just learned it real quick. And I'll do that kind of stuff all the time, and then be sitting in the RV on the highway and just get inspired and pick that guitar up, and a song comes out. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I'm always learning songs that I love of other people's, and always inspired, every time I learn someone else's song, I think I'm able to, it's like I get a new layer of myself I can rejuvenate, and then something of my own comes out later, and maybe it's a totally different kind of song, and then I learn a lot of honky-tonk and old blues songs, but I'll give you an example, the fifth song on Lonesome As A Shadow is called If Not the Fool. Well, in the studio, we cut it like this real driving soul song, like you were saying, kind of has that hip-hop and driving soul kind of R&B flavor. But the original way that I wrote that song is in 3/8 time, very much just a country song, and very slow, and which I still intend to cut it that way. But you would be amazed how much of the music that I make, even if it sounds like maybe I'm merging genres and stuff together, the original song is probably the most, if you hear me just play it on my acoustic straight, would be very, very traditional.
Right.
Everything I write starts out very traditional. And I like to keep a lot of it, like I Want to Cry, the first song on the record, is just very traditional type of 2-beat type of thing. But I could slow that down or change the rhythm, and it's a soul tune, which is why the classifications and modern terms of Americana and all that type of stuff, it means very little to me. It means a lot more to me, being influenced by the regions of Texas and Louisiana, or recording a record in a soul city like Memphis.
Right.
The places that you are, the regional places you are, and what informs your musical knowledge is more important than any kind of genre classification. But when they are going to classify me, I really don't mind being called country soul. I like that term because, to me, it's all the blues.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what is it like? Townes Van Zandt said there's only two kinds of music: the blues and zippity doo dah.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm gonna borrow that.
Take
Blues
it.
and zippity doo dah.
Yeah.
See that boy right there. I see. 100% agree. See, I agree with Towns 100,000%. There's only blues.
Mm-hmm.
If you really, and that's all I've ever really called myself. But again, man, you take it back to the business side, and when you start talking about blues, people just see this like kind of hokey blues circuit stuck in the 90s.
Right.
With this terrible sound, with that like 80s studio snare that like almost destroyed music, and like there's this section of the blues as a part of the business that can be promoted, like with agencies and stuff that has very low ceiling. Like I remember playing on the streets down in Texas and Deep Ellum and stuff, and I was just transitioning to starting to play. The first time I ever played at a theater gig, I got to open up for Joe Wheely at the Kessler Theater in Oak Cliff, Texas.
Right.
And it was all because I was taking my demos, and I had snuck into the show, and some boys was playing over there, and I was dropping my demos in the restroom on the men's urinals, trying to just circulate my stuff. That's always how I got the word out. And the theater director kept going in the restroom, which I didn't realize this, and he would see the CDs, and he was taking them out of there. But I'd go back in there and see them gone and be like, oh, it's working. These people are just taking my CDs. And he was like steady collecting a stack of them up in the little front desk. But it got to the point where it piqued his interest, and he put my CD all in the club, and he wound up liking me, and I was able to open up for Joe Wheely because of that. And I remember he was like, well, what are you trying to do, Charlie? I said, I'm just trying to play the blues. This is Jeffrey Lyles, a good friend, a good mentor to me that's helped me a lot along the way. And he was like, well, whatever you do, son, don't call it blues. And I just couldn't understand what he was saying, but later I come to realize that they try to really fit you in if you're just describing yourself as a straight blues player. And that baffled me. I had no knowledge of that. But he was right in a way, and I've watched people, categorize me as honky-tonk country or like, rock alternative or like singer-songwriter or like,
Right.
and I'm like, man, I'd rather you just call me like a Zydeco Cajun dude than some kind of boring-ass title like that. But there's a business, and like all those classifications affect where they put you in online display with your stuff getting sold and how people search for you and who it connects to and stuff. And that was all very beyond me, and that's politics to me.
Right. Yeah. To me, like a lot of your songs, they feel like there's like this earthy element to them. It feels like a lot of times when I'm listening, I'm like, it feels like you were out in the wilderness and just searching and digging. And
I have been in the wilderness, bro.
And digging and like finding the starts of these songs and, pulled them out and then wrote them. But you know what I mean? Yeah. There's this like earthy texture to them that I feel like it's very like you can see the struggle of writing them, the struggle of the song. You can hear the way you sing. It's all like a real, to me, an earthy kind of richness to these songs. What do you think it is that has helped shape your inflection and how you're putting a whole lot of soul in your voice, and like where those songs come from?
Well, I never did in my whole life. I never sat down with that and said, I'm gonna write a song right now. That's just never how I've done it. I didn't take any kind of lessons to learn how to sing or play or nothing like that. It would all become like, it just eventually started exploding out of me. I just started singing as a way to, relieve the sorrow. I was getting in a lot of trouble when I was younger. I got in a lot of trouble. I got in a lot of situations in life that kind of led me down a very shaky road, but where I was able to eventually find myself and use music as a way to express my sorrow and get past that rather than letting it beat me down. And that's how I ended up in the street and ended up playing in the street, and because it was the only place I could find in my life where I could be around to only play music for like all my days, all the time. Street can sound scary, but for me, it was freedom. I freed myself. You know, I was able to break my chains that way. I was able to wash off, you know, the plastic person that maybe society will mold you into if you can't break out. And maybe that sounds crazy, but for me, that's the way I looked at it. And my music is rooted in that kind of experience, that outlook, that type of struggle. I've written very little of it down. Everything that you've heard of me, almost nothing has ever been written down. And in that way, the songs stay with you, and you got to remember them, and they develop. You know, and maybe I come up with lots of the songs that I sing, like Help Me Georgia on this record, was just an a cappella thing that I was singing out loud. And then eventually, I think with that particular song, somebody had a bass plugged in at a place I was at, and I just sat down and I thumbed out the chords just by playing on a bass line. And then a couple years later, I ended up, you know, turning it in, figuring out the chords and bringing the song back and, you know, laying it down. And in that way, my songs can be very simple, you know, and seem very simple. And they are very simple. I'm not trying to outsmart the world with my songs. I'm just trying to get my point across. And that's the type of music that I like to play. I like to do it that way. So I am pulling them right up out of the earth, you know. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Something you said earlier was like a lot of these songs they start out all kind of in this traditional kind of way. If you're playing on acoustic guitar or whatever, like how much of the band influences the way the songs end up like being recorded and cut, and like going from, you know, just you acoustic guitar or whatever instrument you pick up to being the version that's cut. Like what's that process like of building a song?
It kind of can do a couple things. It can either it can just simply strengthen the song and bring it more to life on the best side, and then on the other side it can totally change it. Sometimes it could change it for the better. You know, when we played Help Me Georgia, I was playing with a very straight traditional rhythm, and then in the studio, Matt Rossbang suggested, he was like, "Man, let's try this one in halftime," you know, which kind of gave it that slow stutter, which I was open to try it because we'd cut several very traditional ones on the record already, and in that way it just brought the song to life. And all of a sudden I took a song that was, you know, a very simple traditional song, and even though keeping it simple, it just gave it a whole new life. And so what I would say honestly is that for me it's where I'm at, and I spent so much of my life playing music and learning music and recording my way and putting stuff out the way that I have wanted to, that I've gotten to a place where I know very much how I want my stuff to sound when guys play with me and what I'm looking for. The more you know about what you're trying to do with your music, the more it's going to come out like the vision in your head. And the less that you know what you want, or the less you're able to convey that message or be able to communicate with other musicians what you're looking for, the more likely it's going to come out different than what you want, because other people are going to have to put their thing on it if you're not sure what you want or you don't know how to tell people what you want. And I've learned that the hard way through trial and error over the years by just recording myself a whole lot. So, like, you know, we were going to use studio guys through Matt and them at Sam Phillips on the record. That was like, that's kind of the way he wanted to do it. And it was in that position, I was like, man, I'm willing to try it out your way with your thing. You know, you've been successful with it. And a few days before the session, he called me up last minute and was just like, man, I've been watching videos of you and the band, man, and y'all are just real tight. Why don't you just bring your guys? You know, which is kind of what I wanted to do in the beginning, but I was wanting to, you know, be flexible and try it a different way. But when he said bring your guys in, first of all, I was really proud that somebody on his level would look at my team and say, man, you got the juice right there. Bring these boys. Right. And then number two, I love all the guys, and they're all such great musicians. I knew that this record would get more attention than anything I had done because of the help I was getting. And I was just real proud to have the guys that I picked up from honky-tonks, street corners, blues bars, dive bars, you know, like in the places that this music was born. I was really proud to have that shine on a record and be seen kind of, you know, all, you know, through all the outlets that they can make your music available. I'm very proud of that fact.
Yeah. I think it's like it feels like a band record, you know, and that's I mean, obviously a lot of times you can find those studio guys and they can make it real shiny and
That can be
perfect.
amazing too.
And yeah, it can be amazing and everything, but for this, like it feels like I said, there's just like that earthy richness of everything, and there's that glow to it.
Well, thank you. I think it's because the truth is the cast that ended up recording on the record, it happened in a very organic way. And that's for if you're doing roots music, that's the best way to do it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Bob Marley and the Wailers, I mean, those guys came up together, you know, you'd be amazed, you know, like Peter Tosh and all those guys. I mean, those were all radically, you know, minded individuals who came up together and started really young and just kept that sound, and then they changed the world with it. You know, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Yeah, you want to go get a topo?
Let's do it, baby.
Awesome.
I'm thirsty.
Hey, well, thank you so much.
Man, I appreciate you, dude.